You told the Jerusalem Post, most of my colleagues are very strong supporters of the U.S.-Israel relationship. Do you still feel like that statement is true?
Is it popular to be out there and stick your head above the parapet? No.
How much do you find you're having to defend your Jewish identity?
Should we have neo-Nazis come and try to welcome them into the party as well?
It's one thing when it's some Hollywood movie star who has no idea what they're talking about, but when it's like a congressperson...
A lot of members of Congress are sheep.
Good morning, friends from near and far. In Dan Senor style, I will tell you it is 7:30 a.m. on a Monday morning, and I am tired, which is to be expected, I suppose, as my guest today is a man who, as his former speechwriting partner and BJJP alum Sarah Hurwitz told me, never sleeps. She also told me the dude is absolutely relentless, and he's absolutely the person you want on your side in any fight. Well, lucky for the Jews, he's on our side. A 5-term congressman from New Jersey, he's one of the most outspoken and unapologetic pro-Israel voices in the Democratic Party, introducing numerous bills, repeatedly visiting the region, and always calling out haters, even within his own party. Whether that's helped or hurt him politically, we'll find out today. He's made a name for himself as a problem solver, literally, as co-founder and current vice chair of the House's Problem Solver Caucus, the only bipartisan ideological group in Congress. His colleague and roommate, Rep. Tom Suozzi, calls him a big pain in the ass, but very thoughtful. And that's right, we got him. Please welcome the Hebrew-heimer, Congressman Josh Gottheimer. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I never heard that Suozzi quote.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty funny.
As I said, major pro-Israel Democrat, and you've repeatedly made clear that your stance on that is strategic. I've read so many different quotes of yours laying that out. You're also on the House Intelligence Committee and Finance Subcommittee on National Security, so you're deep in this stuff anyways. When you're defending your position, how much are you defending that position, and how much do you find you're having to defend your Jewish identity?
It's a great question. I mean, I feel they're very intertwined, these days, no matter what I talk about regarding the U.S.-Israel relationship, which probably like you, I believe is critical to America's national security. That's the oath I take, protecting America, even though the haters, question whether or not I'm fighting for Israel versus the United States. I know that people look at me and they're probably thinking in the back of their head, well, he's Jewish, right? But which is an unusual thing because when I look at anybody else and any other identity in Congress, when they take a position about a country or a point of view, I don't think wait, so what's their background? Where are they from? That's usually not what's popping in my head.
Sure.
But I think these days, as your mug says, being Jewish affects people's perception of an issue.
Yeah.
It's just reality.
Okay.
But, sitting on the Intelligence Committee, what I'm especially right now with what's going on in Iran, but over the last couple of years where I've been focused on Gaza and getting the hostages home and obviously the conflict there, this is all about what's best for the United States, how we fight the terrorists, how we stop the bad guys who want to undermine our freedom and democracy. It's what you're seeing in Iran right now.
Yeah.
And so, but from the beginning, crushing Iran somehow was about, well, what's Israel doing in all this and what's their perspective? And they're our partner. Something's fishy there. And I think that's what a lot of people automatically think.
I thought you made such a great statement, right, when the war began. I'm someone who I consider myself at this point pretty centrist. It's not how I always thought of myself, but these days.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what I would have wanted to hear from, regardless of party, from a centrist, which is...
By the way, it's not your fault. Everything's moved. You've probably stayed, you've probably kept your views.
Yes.
And the whole thing shifted around you.
Your statement, you support the action. Iran is our most threatening actor out there. I'm glad we're taking this step. I would like Congress to be involved procedurally.
Yep.
But this is a good thing, and I support our troops, and I support this action. It seems like the only reason someone would not take that position is if they're anti-Israel, or if their whole agenda is opposing Donald Trump. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. I'm not even going to look at the quality or the thing. Do you agree with that assessment from me? And if so, how much of the opposed Donald Trump part of it is genuine in terms of I really don't agree with what he's doing versus this is good politics for us to just oppose Trump?
It's a great question. I think there's a few things going on right now of how people are reacting to what's going on in Iran. One, as you point out, there's a group of people who say, Donald Trump, whatever he does, we're going to be opposed to it.
And do you find that to be from a place of, I really believe in that deeply, or I think that's going to help me keep my seat?
Well, listen, I think a lot of people are rightly pissed off at the guy, you know.
Sure.
And he lies, and there's not exactly a lot of outreach to the other side in a sense to build relationships. And we, of course, as Democrats, and haven't exactly put an open hand out either, you know. So it's a chicken and egg of who's wrong here, but that's where we are. So you have a group of people, and yes, a lot of it is political survival for people, and a lot of it is just, pure anger. And it's built up over many years, and people have had it with the guy. So that's a bucket of people.
Yeah.
And so no matter what he says and does, they're against it. You know, I think you lose a little credibility in that. And sometimes you have to say, well, actually, I agree with him on this. I may not like him, but I agree with him on certain policy. Your second bucket of people are thinking, I don't want us to get stuck in a forever war.
Right.
And I think some of our veterans feel that way, and some of the country feels that way of like, wait, where's this going? And are we going to be stuck there forever? What's this going to cost us in terms of human life, of treasure? Like what's going to happen here? So there's that group of people. And that's actually, I put a lot of that blame on the administration. They have, as somebody like me who came out strong, as you pointed out, and says, we've got to crush Iran, right? The government of Iran. This is not even a question. We know that they are building strength in their ballistic missile program and their drone program. The nuclear program obviously hangs out there. We're worried about the strategically, and being on the Intel Committee, we see certain steps they're taking that raise concern. And they've killed scores of Americans, killed our service members, attacked our bases, killed our allies, and their banner since the 70s has been death to America. Right? They do not believe in our way of life and our freedom, none of it, in our democracy. Forget it. And to boot, they just killed tens of thousands of their own people, mutilated them, which no one talks about, but that still happened. I know none of the lefty groups like to bring that up, but that did happen. But the president has completely failed from day one in going to the country and saying, hey, listen, here's why we're in this right now, why we had to go in. And here are our objectives. Now, I get it. Over time, objectives can change. But from the beginning, they didn't say, we want to weaken or destroy their ballistic missile program and their drone program. Or on the nuclear side, we want to weaken it, or we want to completely obliterate it and remove all the uranium. Right? Those are two different objectives. 3, the regime change piece, that sometimes they said they want a regime change. Other days they said they weren't aiming for a regime change. What about the terror program, right? Do they want to completely cut off the resources so they can't support Hamas and Hezbollah and Palestinian Islamic Jihad and the Houthis? Like, is that part of the strategy? They did bring up wanting to crush the Navy, right? And gut their Navy. And from a Straits of Hormuz perspective, you could see why they wanted to do it. But it shifted all the time. And then the last thing they put out there, which was pulled back quickly, but they put it out there, which we should talk about, was Israel made us do it. We had to do it.
Right.
So just keep in mind, you've had a lot of shifting objectives. So the reason I think the public, not just Democrats, but I think broadly speaking, you've had challenges with the public is that the president hasn't laid out the why and the objectives. And that's caused a problem from the beginning because we don't know where's the goal to win? What exactly, how do we know when we've won or when we've achieved our objectives?
I would argue from where I'm sitting that the greatest absence, at least for me, has been the thing being said that maybe should have been communicated differently is this is going to be over in a week. This is going to be over in 2 weeks. This is going to be over, that sort of talk, as opposed to this is going to be over when it's over and we've accomplished what we need to accomplish. And because the whole way it's been, well, we're going to be, well, now it's like, I'm looking at my watch.
Let's be honest about our public these days. From the beginning, they're used to, as they saw in Venezuela, they're used to in and out. We just crush and leave. Right. Do our mission, get it out, and leave. And this is much more complicated than that conflict. And people have no patience for this, especially if you don't lay out the predicate. Keep in mind, right, it's one thing if 9/11 happens, they take down the towers, people say, let's go get them.
Right.
In this case, you didn't exactly explain things up front of why the threat was imminent. And then there were shifting reasons and then shifting objectives. So you understand why the public questions this every single day. And the president says, don't worry, we'll get out this thing tomorrow. They have 3 more days, 4 more days. And of course, if you're Iran, you're like, oh, this is great.
Right.
I know the country America has no patience for this. They're looking at their watch. They just want it to end. So what will we do? We're going to drag this thing out as long as humanly possible. We'll screw with them in the Hormuz. In the Straits. We'll lay mines. We'll hold up their tankers. We'll set oil prices higher where 20% of the oil is going through. We can really screw with the oil prices. They were going from sending dozens of missiles out a day. They send out a few strategically.
Right.
The drone strikes. They're hitting their neighbors in the region who are also on edge. right? So just think about this. You've got Iran's probably sitting there going, yeah, they took out the Ayatollah. Yes, they killed many of our leaders, but we will outlast these guys.
Right. War of attrition. So you sit on these committees that you're privy to, obviously, information and intelligence that we don't necessarily hear all the time. From where you're sitting and from what you understand, what are the greatest risks right now in that region and for America that maybe we're not thinking about as a public because we don't know to be thinking about them?
First of all, broadly speaking, we're seeing some of the risks right now, which is just instability. Mm-hmm. And instability spooks the markets, right? So you're seeing the markets affected, the economy could be affected, and I think when you have higher gas prices shooting up and the uncertainty of that higher gas prices affects literally everything, right? Any shipping, any goods, it affects not just at the pump, it's
right.
Everything. So that's a big impact on our economy and the great uncertainty of it. You also have a lot of our friends, the Gulf states in the region, that are also now been destabilized, right? So that affects their economies and their relationship with Israel. And in some ways, if this goes a good way, in the end, this will bring everyone closer together.
That's what I was going to ask. Is it pushing them towards each other? Is it, being, I shouldn't have gotten in this mess in the first place?
Well, I mean, I'm sure some of the people, some of their citizens are saying, why'd you get into this? Mm-hmm. Did you get in it because of those guys? Right? So I'm sure there's some of that. But if it's bringing them together and they're working more closely together behind the scenes and helping each other, in the long run, that actually could, in terms of Abraham Accords thinking, mm-hmm. long-term regional security, that could be a good thing, right?
Yeah.
In terms of learning to cooperate, have those open channels, have those relationships which they may not have had, and looking out for one another. But you see, like, there were attacks in Kuwait overnight. The UAE's been hit.
Yeah.
Regularly, the Qataris, our bases in the region. It's not just people who you'd think might get hit, but like Oman got hit. They've always stayed out of these things. Yeah. So the Iranians have actually really gone after, haven't left anybody out.
Yeah.
So in some ways, I think also from a regional alignment, longer term, you could see a lot of these countries saying, okay, really us versus Iran.
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind, the Iran relationship is not just about Iran. It's also of China.
Right.
It's Russia. It's North Korea. Right. So you've got this axis that in some ways will also become stronger through this process. So but remember, the Chinese historically and in recent years have gone after relationships in the Middle East, right, in the Gulf states. They've been trying to build strong relationships there. They have bases there. There's a deep connection. They may be buying 90% of Iran's oil, but when it comes to other economics and other business, they're doing a lot of business with other Gulf states. And if they get more involved, and so far they've been more hands-off, mm-hmm. the Russians have been more hands-on, that's going to affect longer term their relationships with the Gulf states where they have wanted better
right.
bonds with them. Right. So just thinking long term of realignment, what's the impact going to be? You've got a Bahrain that got hit early that has been close to the United States. But again, other countries like the UAE have played kind of both sides, the Chinese and the Americans. Mm-hmm. And so I just put that out there as something that from a global perspective, longer term, could impact things. And then there's AI and the AI relationships that you always have to be thinking longer term on as you have two AI superpowers, us and the Chinese.
Yeah.
Where are people going to line up behind? So, it's kind of it's a very uncertain time, not just because of Israel, but because of AI, because of oil, and because of other global alignment.
Back to the Israel of it all. Conditioning aid to Israel has always been a red line for you. In the way that you voted. How do you respond to others within your party who make the argument that, hey, I support Israel, but we can't give them a blank check, and this is about leverage, and it's important to send a message with conditioning aid?
I mean, it's absurd. It's absurd in the sense that all aid has conditions, mm-hmm. right? I mean, by law, all of our aid to any country has conditions. They want to put on super conditions on Israel, on our key ally that's been essential in our fight against terror and been our really representative democracy in the region for decades and decades and decades.
Maybe you could articulate that a little bit for us.
Sure.
Because we hear that line a lot, but what does that really mean from somebody on the inside that they're such a strategic ally?
So think of all, you got Israel surrounded by, in a tough neighborhood, Israel size of Jersey, in a tough neighborhood surrounded by many countries that have been America's friends some years, and other years they have not been our friends.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. But who's stuck with us and who's kept an eye out for us in both an intelligence and also militarily. And a lot of the terror proxies, Hezbollah, Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, are not our friends. And think more broadly speaking of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan with Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and Boko Haram and others. Israel has been very important to us in our fights against terror in the region. You've got Syria next door, which is very complicated. Turkey, which has been a complicated relationship.
Yeah.
Obviously, Iraq, Iran. They're all smushed together in this area. The Saudis, right, are our friends now, but there's been moments after 9/11 where we wouldn't exactly trust them.
Yeah.
You've got Pakistan, but Israel has always stuck through it and helped us and been unrelenting in protecting us and our interest in the region. And that's what I mean by that.
Yeah.
Right? And it's a strategically critical relationship. And now Israel, of course, has had its share of crises over the years.
Sure.
And I'd say we've been generally a good friend to them. Sometimes I think they'd like us to be a better friend to them. And oh, by the way, they're the democracy in the region. Right? And people shouldn't make light of that. You go to all these other countries, there are no open voting, right? And people shouldn't belie that. And I say to some of my colleagues who are so critical of Israel, tell me about the others in the neighborhood. You're okay with Sharia law? You're cool with the fact that women have no rights, or that gay people get stoned? That's okay by you? I said to one of my colleagues who was doing the whole Gays for Palestine, what was it, the whole movement?
Queers for Palestine.
Queers for Palestine, thanks. Queers for Palestine. A friend of mine who runs the LGBTQ plus caucus in the House at the time, and I said, so okay, both of us, we both go to Gaza. You can wear a rainbow shirt. I'll wear a kippah. I bet you get killed first. It's what do you think goes on, man? You think that they're going to welcome you? This is these are societies that are just the opposite of welcoming to other perspectives and views. That is reality, and no one wants to talk about it, but they just erase that.
What was the response? What do your colleagues say?
Blank stare, that's just not true, or Israel has zero patience for anybody. Complete and total ignorance of Israel, their history toward women, and people from all different backgrounds.
It's disconcerting. It's one thing when it's some Hollywood movie star who has no idea what they're talking about. But when it's a congressperson, you expect them to know a little bit of the facts on the ground.
Well, except when there's all these false facts out there. I mean, if you don't actually spend time studying them, listen, I'm in the region all the time. Right. On the Intelligence Committee, we split up the world generally, informally, but we all kind of have our areas of focus. And I do the Middle East. I oversee I'm the senior Democrat on the subcommittee that oversees the NSA and cyber. And then my other hat is I focus really on the Middle East. Right. So I spend a lot of time just drilling down. And obviously I know the history. I've been there many, many times. I paid close attention. And I don't blame my colleagues. Listen, if it's not your thing, it's a big world. There's a lot of things going on. You have a lot of issues. People focus on different things. But you do your homework on it.
And if you don't, one would assume then they would defer to those who have and not take such a strong
position.
No, because
where did you start this conversation? What did you say?
Right.
You said because they oh yeah.
Because you're Jewish.
So they're oh, he's got a jaundiced perspective.
He's biased.
This. He's biased, right? So they look at me and oh, yeah, I can't have a neutral perspective on this because I'm Jewish. And I'm very supportive of the U.S.'s relationship and always have been. So he must be in the tank. He can't have a proper perspective on this.
It's a bummer. I mean, obviously Congress people are people too, but you hope from the outside that there's some sort of higher level of thinking and morality than we have on the street.
But it's also politically miserable right now to take that perspective.
Yeah.
Even if you believe, even like me, right? Punch me and I get back up and I'm bring it on.
Right.
But but most members of Congress, if this is not their thing,
right,
and you are getting chased around everywhere and protested, and just saying, well, why won't you say the word genocide? Thanks to your governor, why won't you say the word apartheid? Why won't you say these things? And demanding that they do it and keep protesting them, you baby killer, and everything else they scream at you, right? And I had people running around the Capitol tossing red paint at me, and for blood, and sitting in my office all the time. And it's miserable if you're thinking to yourself, well, this is not, I think the average member of Congress is this is not my issue.
Right.
Well, so why am I getting attacked over this? I could say a magic word and this will stop. Oh, I'll say that. Oh, I have to sign that letter and this will stop, until the next time when they make me sign something else. And then me on the other side saying to them, wait, but you've always been supportive of this. Let me explain it. Let's talk about it. You signed this before. You've been supportive of the MOUs with Israel. You've supported standing up to the BDS movement because it's anti-Semitic. You've taken these steps in the past. And their view now is, no, don't make me do that, because it's really miserable and unpleasant, and I just want it to go away. By the way, not just a Democrat thing anymore. Yeah. This is now a growing Republican problem, which is why you don't see votes in the House of Representatives this Congress, unlike last Congress, on things like anti-Semitism or U.S.-Israel, because they've got problems on their side.
You called out my governor, Gavin Newsom, for using the word apartheid. You said it was dangerous and asked whether it was worth throwing Jews under the bus for political ambition. What about the context in which he used it, which was on this interview with Pod Save America, and as he was describing...
They love me.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure those are your number one fans.
Huge, yeah. I'm going there after this.
Oh, perfect. What about it crossed the line for you? Is it just the word itself? Is it the context it was used? Is it any public statement?
Well, first of all, it's bullshit. It's ahistorical. It's false, right? There's that. I mean, I know facts are shouldn't get in the way of things that we say these days, but yeah, it's just not true. It is a cheap anti-Israel talking point that extremists have used as part of the intersectionality movement, tried to use for a long time. And I expected from Governor Newsom much better, as especially someone who knows better, who's been to Israel, who understands the truth. And I get that was going to score, he hopes would score him points with the left, with the progressives for his presidential run. And I get that was, I'm sure, what he was thinking. Like, oh, this is a new thing I can do to out left row or some Rokana or something, right? So let me just try to get to the left of these guys. And there's a reason why I think he backed off, because people rightly flipped out, not just me.
Right, sure. To push back on it a little bit, I actually found from a, academic perspective, the way in which he used it, I didn't totally disagree with. He said, basically, if the West Bank is annexed and there ostensibly are different laws for the Palestinians there and the Israelis, it would be, quote, sort of like apartheid, which is what he said, which is sort of accurate, I think.
He knew what he was doing by using the word apartheid.
That's sort of what I'm asking is is there any way, we talk about there should be legit criticism, should be allowed.
Sure.
But with the impact of even mentioning a word, how do you do it?
That's a dog whistle word.
Right.
Yes, and he knows that, right? And that's my point. We know that the haters have for a long time claimed that Israel is an apartheid state.
Right. And they pounce on that.
Yes, and it's just go to the Knesset and see what the makeup of the Knesset is, and see what the makeup of the country is, and tell me that it just makes no sense to say it's an apartheid state. Now, are there different rules in different places? Yes, because of Intifada. There's historically had to, for the safety and security people, you've had different rules that have developed over time. But to call it an apartheid state is a joke. And he knew, but even if I understand what you're saying about the context. Even if he said, if that happened, if this happened, if that happened, by the way, so you could have the same conversation about the United States. Mm-hmm. If this happens, if that happens, threaten our democracy, what that looks like. But he purposely jumped the shark and used that word because he knew what would get picked up was that word. I believe.
Right.
I don't, even though he makes his claims about his IQ, he's a smart guy. And he knows what he's doing, and he knew what he was doing there.
We have to be able to allow, I think, as Jews, quote-unquote legitimate criticism of this.
Of course.
So how do we do that in a way where the intention is pure, but we know the impact, even when it's legit, is going to be harmful for Jews because of the way people pounce on any single negative anything that has to do with Israel?
Well, it's a great point. And listen, the good news, Jonah, is that there's no shortage of criticism. Right, exactly. In case you didn't get there,
right,
don't worry.
Someone's got me covered.
5,000 people today will have you covered criticizing Israel, right? So don't worry that your issue is not going to be raised. It will. Secondly, of course you should be able to criticize the action of a government and say you disagree with the decision of a government.
Right. Which, of course, we do all the time,
Sure.
and especially within the Jewish community, we do of Israel all the time. But it's when you do it in public, it becomes...
There's a line of, like, using words like genocide that are false. There's a line where people jump over and say Israel doesn't have a right to exist. Does it have a right to exist? You shouldn't be able to. It should not have defensive weapons. Like there's certain things that and by the way, I would hope, because people are, you've got a lot of countries in Europe that are not thrilled with Donald Trump and with us, right? I would hope that England doesn't wake up tomorrow and say, I hate that Donald Trump guy, so I'm cutting off our relationship with the United States. It's over.
Right.
And I said, because to me that's the same thing. You may not like Prime Minister Netanyahu. I think very few people here do. But that doesn't mean we should end the historic relationship with Israel. But people are making that jump, like that they've made that. I don't know if you agree with me on this, but they've kind of said we should be done with Israel. Right?
Yeah.
Because of Netanyahu. No, you could say, I'm done with that guy, just like I don't like Trump. But that doesn't mean we're done with the United States. And unfortunately, that's kind of what's happened with a lot of my colleagues and a lot of people that right now, including, by the way, on the far right, the Candace Owens of the world, the isolationists, increasingly Vance. It's a lot like that a lot of their comments are, I don't know why we support this country over there.
I think part of the problem is, using the analogy you just brought up, like if you don't like Donald Trump, I got to wait 4 years and then I get another crack at it. With Israel, I mean, Bibi's been the prime minister for forever, and you never know when you're going to get how long you're waiting him out.
True, but it's still a democracy.
Sure.
It's not a dictatorship. It's not like in some of our Middle Eastern countries or African nations where like you're there for life. That's not the same thing. Now, yes, Netanyahu's been there a long time. And after the budget they passed yesterday, what might have been forced elections this summer could be the fall.
Yep.
The bottom line is this. It's still a critical ally to us in the region. Put aside the economic benefits of our relationship, the health care relationship, the benefits of our relationship. It's a very deep relationship and an important one.
Yeah. Before we continue, I want to take a moment to share something incredible. Deep underground in Jerusalem, as rockets fly and sirens blare, doctors and nurses urgently treat patients. I'm talking operating rooms, ICUs, even maternity wards, moving below ground in a matter of minutes. Hard to wrap your head around, but this is what Hadassah hospitals do. Hadassah, the Women's Zionist Organization of America, built these hospitals, and now they're working feverishly to expand their underground capacity. There's an urgent need to equip a new emergency zone with additional beds and to build and outfit 6 advanced operating rooms so they can continue delivering life-saving care no matter the conditions. If you're able to help, please consider making a gift at hadassah.org. That's HADASSAH.org. Your support helps Hadassah continue its life-changing work for the people of Israel. Before we end, I'd like to thank Hadassah for their life-changing work in Israel in these challenging times. To learn more, visit hadassah.org. Almost a year ago to the day that we're recording this, you told the Jerusalem Post of the Democratic Party, most of my colleagues are very strong supporters of the U.S.-Israel relationship. It's a year later. Do you still feel like that statement is true?
That's a great point. It's a year ago that I said that?
Yeah, it was like March 29th.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So there's 2 ways I look at this.
Yeah.
One, compared to like when I got to Congress in 2017, if you had on a vote on something to do with U.S.-Israel relationship, on standing up to anti-Semitism in some way, if that came up, you'd get 90 to 95% of the Congress behind it. You'd get 5% who were opposed. Some of the isolationists, some far left, early far left. Okay. Squad shows up in 18. And I'm sure Alex or Rashid will be here later for the show.
Yes, there's a line out the door.
Yeah. So they show up, and then we've they make the comments about hypnosis on the world, and if you remember this, and all about the Benjamins.
Yeah, of course.
Yes. I lead a resolution with Elaine Loria, then Congresswoman Elaine Loria, who's running again, and we talk about, and then we pass this resolution criticizing their comments. That was seen as a very big, like thunderous moment in the Democratic Party in the Congress. very controversial. That seems like today that'd be like Candyland if that was the only comments made today, right? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
If you looked at anything I post on social media, the comments of what people say, dirty Jew, dirty Zionist, baby killer, genocide Josh, whatever it is, on anything I could post about the weather, I get those comments.
Right.
That's today. As I said earlier, the incentives for being supportive of the U.S.-Israel relationship when you have a 17% of Democrats, according to that poll that was out a week or so ago, saying only 70% favor Israel's or sympathetic more to Israel than to the Palestinian issues. 17%. Wow. Okay, so now you go to Democratic primaries, so, being associated with AIPAC or with the Jewish lobby or anybody, any issues like that, and not more sympathetic to the other side, costs you in a primary when you have 17%. So now, do I believe if big votes come up again on the MOU, on interceptors and defensive weaponry and standing up to BDS or whatever the issue is, if those votes come up, do I still believe I'd get a majority of Democrats to vote for it? Yes. Do I think they're going to run around signing letters and waving the Israeli flag? No. Is it popular to be out there and stick your head above the parapet? No. Right? Do I think when push comes to shove, you need the support? Is it there? Yes. A majority. Now, again, majority is a lot different than losing 5%, as I said when I got to Congress 10 years ago.
It's a big spectrum.
It's a massive shift. Yeah. And even in the last year, with all these primaries and with what's gone on in the Middle East, a massive shift. And what people said to me, I'm sure they said to you, John, on the show maybe, once the hostages are home, I'm sure things will calm down and maybe they'll back off. Do you remember that? I
guess, yeah.
No, people were like, we just got to get through this.
Right.
And then the war will be over, the hostages go home, things will calm down, people will stop being so critical and making this front and center.
Right.
Well, that was bullshit.
Yeah.
Because the bottom line is if you look at all of these primaries now, like in Jersey and around the country, look at these debates. 1 or 2 questions of the 10 questions is about something to do with Israel and Jews.
Yeah.
Like you could have 10 questions in a debate, and somehow, why is that an issue coming up in a debate for Congress? There's 1,000 issues to ask about affordability right now. Why are those coming up?
Yeah.
Right? Why? Because you've got a surge of anti-Semitism and Jewish hate, and that is reality. And I know I know people are like, oh, the Jews, they overplay that, and they this and that, right? Go read the New York Times on any given day and tell me that.
Yeah. Right?
The New York Times is in the business now of just being an anti-Semite.
How much of that shift within Congress that you just spoke about is it a tail wagging the dog situation of, is it these Congress people setting this tone and then the people are following that? Or is it the people are setting the tone and the Congress people are following that?
Well, I don't think it's just Congress. I think it's the media. Why is it that you have Pod Save America, just because now you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Why is that Pod Save America has Graham Plattner on like they're a folk hero? Right. The guy had a Nazi tattoo. Right. And put aside the tattoo, his comments are insane. Right. And shameless about his comments. And so it was like Piker. What did Rose say about that? That we need to have other perspectives.
Right.
The Democrat Party has to be open to other perspectives. Oh, should we have neo-Nazis come? We want to listen to the skinheads? Should we bring their perspective in and try to welcome them into the party as well? Holocaust deniers, right? Is that who we are? Those are the values that we want to espouse and support as a party? We should kick them to the curb.
Yeah.
Right? But no, we're embracing them. And listen, Graham Plattner, look at the polling. The guy's ahead, right? No one seems to care about that. And so is that Congress or is that the media in combination with social media and everything else, right? Because remember, social media and disinformation that's on there, whether that's being pumped in by TikTok and the Chinese government or whoever is behind, and the Russians. And as someone who's an intel, let me just tell you, our friends they know how to sow division in this country. They're very good at it, and they know that we live in our microcosms. They understand the algorithms, and they are pushing us apart. Intentionally.
Sure.
And they're very good. People are angrier. They're feeding on each other. They're building conflict. And then the product of that, so when people are always like, well, Donald Trump, and I'm like, no. Donald Trump is a product of all of this. He's able to use all of that to rise up. And so is a Graham Plattner. and so is Piker. All these guys are able to do that. They use the system. And then Congress is like a lot of members of Congress are sheep. They see, look, this is not popular. Let me go, or this is popular. Let me go there. And if I say this, it'll make me more popular, help me win my primary, right? And then you got people like me who are working with the other side. And they look at people like, what, you work in a bipartisan, you talk to the other side, right? You're trying to govern, and you talk to the other side, and you try to actually sit and engage with the Secretary of State or with the head of the CIA about an issue, right? And they're like, well, what are you doing that for? That's not popular in the Democratic primary.
It's so disappointing to hear, just you hope that the people you elect to be leaders would be leading and not being sheep. But here we are.
Yeah, but Jonah, here's the good side. The good side, because it shouldn't be all just negative.
Yeah.
The good side is we also understand in the importance of the U.S.-Israel relationship, the importance of fighting anti-Semitism, and we also now understand we see the field clearer than we did before October 7th, right? We do. We know who our friends are. We know who wasn't there after October 7th. People that we had embraced forever and worked together with and locked arms with who suddenly weren't there. Okay, great. We understand that. We also understand what we have to do more in educating people in K-12 and about the Holocaust, about October 7th, about standing up to hate of all kinds, Islamophobia, as well as anti-Semitism. We understand what we've got to teach our kids if we're going to get them on side. By the time they get to college, which half these colleges are totally screwed up, but some of them are getting better. But by the time they get to college, in my opinion, it's too late if you haven't done the work in K-12.
Mm-hmm. So let's go down that road. Where should we be focusing our energy, our budget? What do we need to be doing to start flipping the script for the Jewish community here in America?
I think it's essential that we actually start focusing on K-12. I think I'd argue in general the community has been asleep at the switch.
Oh yeah.
The last couple decades, and our enemies, who have a different perspective on things, have been very focused, both at the college and K-12 level. Investing in departments in the college level and professors and changing curriculum and putting groups together on campuses and funding those groups and giving them creative names like JVP. They've been very good at this, and we kind of were whistling, past the graveyard. And I think we completely blew it. And now we can't afford to blow it anymore. So I think we need to focus on K-12 and the curriculum. You should not be walking into a school in post-war New York City and seeing a map on the wall without Israel on it. And by the way, it means we're going to have to invest in that and put resources behind it. And it's not just Qatar cash, right? Although the Qataris, I believe, have put money in, and I think we should go after them. Yeah. Hard when the president's getting planes from them, but harder.
Right.
But we should be doing that, and in an aggressive way. Secondly, so we've got the K-12 piece and we've got the college piece. We should be going after colleges that are not doing right and not be afraid. We should stop writing checks to colleges that aren't doing the right thing. And I know that means our kids not going to get into certain schools. I get it. Listen, I went to Penn. Penn wasn't great for a while, and people stood up to it. And I think they're back on track. Yeah. Largely because people stood up and said something about it. And I went after, I think I was part of investigating about 50 universities or more, right? And my wife, because I got two kids, one's going to be applying to college. My wife is like, you got to leave a couple out, man, because our kid's not going to do any school. And I said, no, there's good schools doing the right thing, like Vanderbilt or Emory or WashU or the Texas schools or the Florida schools doing a great job, right? And have been doing a great job. And other schools haven't. They should be called out for it. And we should not be afraid to call them out, right, and be aggressive. These investigations going on, some of them they hide the money very well, these universities. They take the foreign money. We've tried to pass stricter laws. They have not been passed. The universities don't want these laws, so they lobby hard against them. Why? Because they like to take the cash. They want the money. So they make it difficult. They make it difficult to pass these laws. But we have to be very focused on that. Secondly, we've got to really do a better job politically and being aggressive and explaining to members of Congress, but not just members of Congress, local elected officials, state officials, school board members. We got to actually do more educating them as well and holding them accountable when they're wrong, right? We have to not be afraid to be tough. I know some people are like, well, it's more of outreach and a glove. No. No, that does not work. That's bullshit. People in elected office react to, which is what you're seeing now, reacting to these protests.
Yeah.
That's what they react to.
Yeah.
Right? You need a little tough love. And I think it's really important. We shouldn't be afraid to do that. And we got to invest in that. But to stop bad people from coming in, and also to hold those who are in accountable. And we should not be afraid to do that and to be really, really aggressive.
And when you say we, do you mean the government? Do you mean the people listening to this podcast?
We the Jewish community and
on the ground,
people who are listening, probably listening to this podcast on the ground at all levels, and those who invest in organizations, right? Listen, you know which organizations that you've given money to in the past on October 8th ran away from you.
Yeah.
You probably shouldn't write a check there again. Right now, listen. My mom passed from sarcoid. We write checks to sarcoid for research.
Oh yeah.
But a lot of the other groups that I used to support can go after themselves. Stick it. I'm not writing them a check. They didn't get my back. They didn't get our back. Why should we get their back? We need to be smart and coordinated in our giving. You can't have us all competing with each other, right? That doesn't do any good. It's a huge problem. We should sit around the table and strategize. Someone should be focusing on the K-12 piece and education piece and make sure we are investing in education and being smart about that. Somebody should be focused on actually communicating with members of Congress or all different levels of elected officials and saying hey, tough love, here's what you should know, here's what you should learn. And by the way, if you're saying something crazy or anti-Semitic, we're going to hold you accountable for that. And so these are the kind of things we should be thinking about more broadly. And then, of course, we also have to be smart and educating about global issues as well.
All right, we're getting close to the end here, so I'm going to end with a little game that I've devised for you, Congressman. This one's called Problem Solver, as that is your thing in Congress, as I mentioned, part of the Problem Solvers Caucus, bipartisan group.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you a scenario, and you're gonna have to help these two sides come together and make a deal. All right? It's high holiday services. Half the congregation wants assigned seats they've had for 30 years. The other half wants open seating to feel more inclusive. Make a deal.
I think you're going to have to take half those seats and say we're going to keep half the seats as we did in the past, and we're going to have the other half open seating, and we're going to have a new tradition in our synagogue where we do that.
The people who's given up their seats for the inclusive people are probably going to be pretty pissed off.
I know, but next year maybe they have a shot of the seats that they had the year before. So
get a rotation going.
They can rotate, and half will go in, half will go out. But you got to give we've got progress. We've got to move forward, and we got to bring in the next generation who wants open seating.
You got a deal.
By the way, synagogue president, the worst job in America.
Okay, speaking of synagogue president, here we go. Here's one. The rabbi wants a tight 90-second announcement after services. The temple president's got 14 thank yous and a personal story. Let's make a deal.
By the way, I wish we had a buzzer.
Right?
We definitely should have a buzzer, and I think they should get 2 minutes. And when we do debates, we have one of those big clocks.
Yeah.
And with the red, yellow, green, and there should be right next to the bema a big clock with red, yellow, green. And
what does yellow mean?
We're getting close to the end of your time.
I didn't know that they had. I thought it was just one light. That's you're out.
No. They give you
they walk it down.
They know
for
that
you.
You're running out of time in case you can't see the clock. It's a way of. So we should have that on the bema as well. They should be given 5 minutes. If you can't say what you want to say in 5 minutes, you got a bigger problem.
Yeah.
You could ask for money, thank people, and move on. They do it in the Oscars. And then what you could do, I think, which would be a really good idea, is you have music playing louder and louder.
There you go.
Just like when you watch the Oscars.
Yeah.
And then
That's their exit
shut
music.
down. It could be nice music.
The local school board is split. Half want drag queen story hour, half want Jesus story hour. Make a deal.
That's a good one. I think depending upon the school, because I'll defer to the school because schools are very local controlled, not controlled by the federal government. I think it's really important that both sides are given time. They have to learn to share, and I think in general, the bigger point here is people have to talk to each other, listen to one another, and be willing to get 80% of what they want. I'd say the same thing should happen in any situation like that. The problem happens when everyone digs in on their side and isn't willing to talk to one another. And so I'm always like, there's two sides. I want them to talk to each other, and that'd be interesting. They should have coffee first. Make them have coffee. See what happens. And if any are still alive after that, I bet they can solve the problem.
Nice. The answer we were looking for is drag queen Jesus, but that's fine. Let's wrap it up here. Your dad wants you to call him every day. Your chief of staff says you don't have the time. Make a deal.
Oh, that chief of staff's got to go.
Boom.
Family first.
Love that.
I talk to my dad every day.
Beautiful.
He's amazing. 81 in May.
All right, Pops. Great. Staying strong. Congressman, thank you so much for the time. Thank you for being here. This was awesome.
Thanks for what you're doing. I appreciate it.
You too. Thank you again to Representative Gottheimer and his team for making today happen on such short notice in such a short window. They really wanted to be here for this conversation today, and I appreciate that so much. And a special shout out to Zach Lutsky for connecting us in the first place and for joining us on set today. And of course, thanks to all of you for tuning in today. All right, I gotta go take a nap. I'll see you all right back here for the next moderate episode of Being Jewish with me, Jonah Platt.